Madonna just hit #1 on the Billboard 200, and the way she did it says everything about where she stands in 2026. Here's the deal. After 7 years away from releasing new music, Madonna came back with Confessions 2, and the audience didn't just show up, they showed out. The album debuted with 134,000 equivalent album units in its first week, according to Billboard, which was more than enough to push past Olivia Rodrigo's You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So in Love, which held on at #2 with a very healthy 103,000 units of its own. This wasn't a default win against a weak field. She beat a legitimate chart presence. That matters. Now let's break down that 134,000 figure because the story is in the details. About 114,000 of those units came from actual album sales, physical and digital copies, which Variety reports is Madonna's best sales week since 2012. Think about that for a second. Her best sales performance in over a decade. On a record, nobody had a massive radio hit from heading in. The other, roughly 19,000 units, came from streaming equivalent albums, representing 20.1 million on-demand streams, her best streaming week ever. So she set a personal streaming record and a 14-year sales milestone in the same week. Both sides of the modern music economy moved for her simultaneously. That's not a lucky break, that's a fan base that was ready. Here's the part I find genuinely fascinating. None of the singles released ahead of the album really broke through on radio or streaming. Her duet with Sabrina Carpenter, Bring Your Love, which had the added attention of a joint appearance at Coachella behind it, peaked at #74 on the Hot 100. According to Variety, that's where it stalled. In any other era, a lead single that peaks at 74 signals trouble. It should mean the album is a commercial question mark, but apparently what happened instead is that fans decided they didn't need a breakout single to justify buying the whole thing. Variety notes that the perception of Confessions 2 as a continuous dance record, rather than a collection of pop songs built around individual hits, actually worked in its favor. People bought the experience, not just the tracks. That's a very specific kind of fan loyalty, and it's rare. And the critical reception gave those fans cover. The album is sitting at an 84 average grade on Metacritic, and Variety's own Stephen J. Horowitz called it easily the best album Madonna has made in 2 decades. That's a strong pull quote for a record by any artist. When critical consensus and fan enthusiasm line up like this, especially without a massive pop radio hit doing the heavy lifting, it usually means the album has actual depth. It also means that however this chart run plays out over the next few weeks, Madonna came back on her own terms and it worked. Now, some context on the history being made here, because Billboard's numbers are worth sitting with. This is Madonna's 10th #1 album in the US. Only 5 artists in history have more. She's also now the first act with a #1 album in the 2020s to have previously reached the top of the chart in 3 other decades: the 80s, the 2000s, and the 2010s. 4 different decades of #1s. And across the Atlantic, Confessions 2 became her 13th #1 in the UK. Warner, her label, pointed out that this makes her and the Beatles the only 2 acts in history with 10 #1 albums on both the American and British charts. You can frame that as a label flexing their stats, and they are. But the underlying fact is real. That's a genuinely unusual piece of music industry history, and this album is the one that completed it. So where does that leave us? Madonna came back after 7 years without a hit single in a streaming era that supposedly doesn't reward album first listening, and she landed #1 on both sides of the Atlantic with her best sales week in over 14 years and a career high streaming performance. The question the chart doesn't answer is whether Confessions 2 holds over the next few weeks or whether it's a first week phenomenon driven by pent-up demand. My instinct says the critical scores give it legs, but we'll see. Drop your take in the comments. Did you pick up Confessions 2? And do you think she can stay in the top 5? And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's a good time. We're tracking this chart story week by week.